breaking away from addiction when relief becomes a prison. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Mind Room podcast, where real people have real conversations about the struggles we usually hide. I am your host, Dr. David Rex Orgen. Today, I want to begin with one question, a question that may take it deeper than the behavior itself. What do you reach for when you do not want to feel what you are feeling? When stress becomes overwhelming, where do you go? When loneliness enters the room, what do you reach for? When shame becomes too loud, what helps do you escape from a little while? Because addiction does not always begin with someone wanting to destroy their life. Sometimes it begins with a much quieter sentence. I just need something to help me get through tonight. For a while, it works. It relaxes you, distracts you, numbs you, excites you, helps you forget, gives you relief. Then, somewhere along the way, something changes. What began as something you reach for occasionally becomes something you feel you need. And eventually, the question is no longer, do I enjoy this? The deeper question becomes, do I still feel free to say no? Today, we are not asking a conversation about shame. We are having a conversation about freedom. And here is the truth I want you to carry throughout this episode. Addiction often begins with a search for relief. Recovery begins when we become willing to face what we have been trying not to feel. Let me tell you about someone I will call Nathan. Nathan was 42 years old, married to Ruth, father of two, hardworking, responsible, the kind of person other people depend on. He worked long hours, paid the bills, went to church, showed up for family events, laughed with friends. From the outside, Nathan looked like a man who had his life together. But there was another Nathan very few people knew. Several years earlier, when he had become extremely stressful, deadlines, financial pressures, more responsibilities, less sleep. One evening, after a particular difficult day, Nathan poured himself a drink. He relaxed, it relaxed him. His shoulders loosened. His mind became quieter. That night, he slept better than he had in several days. Nothing about that moment felt dramatic. A few evenings later, he did it again, then again. But something else was happening beneath the surface. Nathan was not only tired, Nathan carried an old voice inside him. Growing up, his father had been extremely critical. Nothing Nathan did seemed quite good enough. He brought home a good school report. His father would ask, why wasn't it better? If Nathan succeeded at something, he heard, don't get too proud. If he made a mistake, I expected more from you. Nathan grew old. He built a career. He married. He became a father. But the voice came with him. You should be doing better. You are falling behind and you are falling. Everybody else is succeeding. You are disappointing people. Nathan really talked about those thoughts. But at first, it was just to him thoughts. But when he drank, they became quieter. For a little while, he did not feel like the boy who could never get it right. Drink stopped, being only something he enjoyed. It became relief. One became two. Two became something he looked forward to after a stressful day. Eventually, the stressful next day was no longer necessary. Ruth noticed. One evening, she said, Nathan, I think you are drinking more than you realize. Nathan immediately became defensive. I work hard. I pay the bills. I take care of the family. I'm not hurting anybody. Ruth did not argue. A few days later, she asked him, if it really isn't a problem, could you stop for 1 month? Nathan became irritated. Why should I have to prove anything? The conversation ended. But the question followed him. That night, when everyone else had gone to sleep, Nathan sat alone in the kitchen. There was a glass in front of him. He looked at it, and for the first time, instead of asking, how much am I drinking? Nathan asked, why does the thought of not having this frighten me? That question changed something. Because sometimes the clearest sign that something is gaining too much power over us is not simply how often we use it. Sometimes it is what happens inside us when we imagine life without it. Now, the question beneath the behavior, when people struggle with addiction or compulsive patterns, one of the first questions they often hear is, why don't you just stop? But I want to offer another question. What emotional job has this behavior been doing for you? Think about that. Has it been helping you numb pain, reduce anxiety, escape from shame, quiet loneliness, feel excitement, avoid memories, fall asleep, feel just wanted, feel powerful, feel less empty? That question does not excuse harmful behavior. Responsibility still matters, friend. Consequences still matter. But if we only remove the behavior without understanding the need beneath, we may never understand why the behavior became so powerful. Sometimes the visible behavior is only the surface. Beneath it may be grief, trauma, loneliness, fear, low self worth, pressure, anger, shame, emotional exhaustion. The question is not only, what are you doing? Sometimes the deeper question is, what are you trying not to feel? Now let's look at relief that can become a circle. Many compulsive patterns follow a circle. Something happens, then a trigger, then a stress, then rejection, then boredom, then loneliness, then conflict, an uncomfortable memory. Then comes the edge, then the behavior, then temporary relief. For a moment, something changes. You feel calmer, numb, distracted, excited, comforted. But then come the real consequences: regret, broken promises, financial problems, relationship tension, health concerns, shame, and the shame creates more emotional pain. So the person reaches again for the very thing that once provided relief. The cycle continues. That is why shame alone really produces lasting change. Shame says, there's something wrong with you. Healing asks, what is happening within you, and what support will help you change? There is a difference between accountability and humiliation. Here, accountability's words. Accountability says, this behavior is hurting you. and other people. Something needs to change. But shame says, you are beyond hope. The mind room would never confuse those two words. Not every compulsive behavior is the same, friend. We also need to be precise. Alcohol dependence is not medical identical to gambling. Gambling is not identical to compulsive shopping. Compulsive shopping media use is not the same as substance dependence. Different behavior carry different risk, and many require different kinds of help. But there is a useful question we can ask across many patterns. Has this behavior begun taking more control than I intended to give? Is it costing you sleep, money, trust, time, health, concentration, intimacy, peace, work, family? Are you hiding it? Have you repeatedly promised yourself you would reduce it or stop? Do you become anxious, angry, or distressed when you cannot access it? Have people who love you raised concerns? Sometimes we need to stop asking, do I enjoy this? Start asking, what is this costing me? Now, let me take you to the reflection room. I want us to slow down now. This is the reflection room, my friend. No judgment, no pretending, just honesty. Think about one pattern in your life. Maybe it involves a substance, maybe gambling, maybe pornography, maybe shopping, maybe food, maybe social media, maybe work, or another behavior you are concerned about. Now ask yourself, do I still feel free to say no? Have I ever hidden how much, how often, or how long I engage in this behavior? Have I repeatedly promised myself I would stop, reduce, or change, but return to the same pattern? What is this costing me? My peace, my health, my money, my marriage, relationship with my children, my concentration, my integrity, my faith? Now let's go a little bit deeper. What usually happens emotionally just before I reach for it? Stress, loneliness, boredomness, anger, rejection, fear, shame, and finally, what am I trying not to feel? Sometimes the behavior everybody can see is connected to a wound almost nobody can see. Now let's talk about 5 moments towards freedom. First, tell the truth. Freedom brings and begins with honesty. There is power in saying, this has become a problem. Notice what I did not say. I did not say, I am the problem. Your behavior may need to change. Your decisions may have to hurt people. You may need to repair trust. Responsibility matters, but your struggle is not the total definition of who you are. Secrecy often makes compulsiveness pattern harder to change. Honesty creates room for help. Tell the truth to yourself. Then tell the truth to somebody safe and appropriate. A professional, a trusted family member, a recovery support person, a counselor, someone who can help you move from confession to action. Now, second, I need you to learn your triggers. Do not only study the behavior, study the moment before the behavior. Where were you? What happened? What were you feeling? Were you tired? Were you tired? Lonely? Angry? Rejected? Bored? Did someone criticize you? Did you have any argument? Did any older memory surface? Nathan began noticing that his strongest urge to drink often followed moments when he felt inadequate. A difficult meeting, a financial problem, a comparison with somebody else, feeling that he had disappointed Ruth. The alcohol was not random, it was connected to an emotional trigger. Once Nathan saw the pattern, he had a better chance of responding before the urge became overwhelming. Now, the third, change the environment. We often talk about willpower, but environment matters too. If something repeatedly pulls you into a destructive pattern, wisdom may require changing access, routines, places, devices, relationship, or habit. Do not make what you are trying to resist unnecessary easy to reach. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. Courage is not proving I can stand beside temptation all day. Sometimes courage says, I know where I am vulnerable, so I'm going to create a healthy environment. Fourth, replace, do not only remove. This may be one of the most important steps. If a behavior has been helping you cope with stress, loneliness, anxiety, or emotional pain, removing it can leave an empty space. What will fill that space? What will fill that space? Exercise, counseling, healthy community, prayer, rest, journaling, creative work, a recovery group, a healthier evening routine, meaningful friendship, medical treatment where appropriate. The goal is not only how do I stop doing this? The deeper goal is how do I build a life where I no longer need this behavior to carry so much emotional weight? Fifth, let someone walk with you. Some struggles are too significant to manage through willpower alone. That does not make you weak, it makes you human. You may need professional counseling, medical report, medical support, a recovery program, a support group, a trusted mentor, a sponsor, a family support. Different struggle requires different kinds of help. And this is really important. An alcohol or another substance has led to physical dependence. Do not automatically assume that suddenly stopping on your own is always safe. Appropriate medical guidance may be necessary. Seeking help is not failure. Sometimes one of the strongest things a person can do or say is, I cannot keep doing this by myself. When emotional dependency feels like love, there is another pattern worth discussing. Sometimes the thing controlling our emotional world is not a substance, it is another person. You constantly check whether the message, whether they are online, who liked their posts, where they went, whether they responded. Your mood rises and falls according to your attention. When they communicate, you feel alive. When they become distant, your entire emotional world collapses. Sometimes we call that love. But love and emotional dependency are not the same thing. Healthy love says, I value your presence. Emotional dependence begins saying, I cannot regulate myself without your presence. Healthy love allows two people to remain whole. It allows boundaries, individuality, trust, emotional responsibility. So ask yourself, my friend, have I made another person responsible for regulating my entire emotional world? That can be a difficult question. Freedom often begins with difficult questions. Now, a biblical perspective. Permit me to speak as a pastor for a moment. According to 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12, Paul speaks about refusing to be mastered by anything. The word is powerful, mastered. Something can begin as a choice, then slowly begin choosing for you. Something can begin as something you control, then quietly begin controlling you. Faith asks a deeper question than, is this allowed? Faith also asks, is this beginning to own me? Has it taken control of my thoughts, my time, my body, my money, my relationships, my decisions? God's desire is not simply restriction, it is freedom. And sometimes spiritual maturity means having the courage to admit, this has too much power in my life. Prayer matters, my friend. Faith matters. Prayer and action belong together. You can pray and make the appointment. Pray and attend the support meeting. Pray and tell your family the truth. Pray and speak to a counselor. Pray and accept accountability. Sometimes the answer to prayer for freedom begins within enough courage to walk through the door where help is waiting. Now back to Nathan's story. Nathan eventually sat down with Ruth. He did not blame her. He did not argue about how much he drank. He simply said, "You are right. Something has changed." Ruth listened. Then Nathan said, "Something even more important. I don't think I'm doing this because I enjoy it anymore." He paused, then said, "For a little while, it makes me feel like I am not failing." There it is. The drinking was visible. The shame beneath it was being hidden. Nathan needed to address his drinking, but he also needed to address the wound that kept demanding relief. He sought professional support. He allowed other people into the struggle. He changed some routines. He began learning to recognize the moment when that old voice of inadequacy became loud. The process was not perfect. There were difficult days, difficult conversations, consequences he had faced, trust he had rebuilt. But something fundamental had changed. Nathan was no longer protecting the secret. And when secret lost its hiding place, healing finally has something to begin. Before we close, let me speak to you from a father's heart. Maybe nobody knows. Maybe you are tired of making promises to yourself. Maybe you have said, "This is the last time," more times than you can remember. Maybe shame keeps telling you, "Fix yourself first, then tell somebody." Perhaps the first act of courage is not fixing everything. Perhaps the first act of courage is allowing one trustworthy person to know the truth. You do not need to announce your struggle to the world, but you may need to stop carrying it alone. Please hear me. Hiding until you become better may be one of the things keeping you from getting better. Tell somebody appropriate. Reach for help. And if you stumble, do not turn one stumble into permission to surrender. Get up, learn, return to the plan, reach out again. Recovery is not about proving that you are strong enough to need nobody. Sometimes recovery begins when you become strong enough to allow somebody to walk beside you. Your weekly mind room challenge. This week, I want you to answer 3 questions. Write them down. What am I usually feeling before I reach for this behavior? What temporary relief does it give me? Who can I tell the truth to this week? Then take one action. Do not only write the person's name. Have the conversation. 4 truths to remember before you leave the mind room today. Remember these 4 truths. First, something can begin as relief and eventually become a prison. Second, shame tells you to hide. Healing invites you into honesty. Third, freedom is not simply stopping a behavior, it also involves learning healthier ways to deal with the need beneath it. And finally, when one behavior becomes your main way of escaping emotional pain, the relief it gives today can begin creating tomorrow's pain. If you remember one sentence from this conversation, remember this: freedom does not begin when you prove you can control everything. Sometimes freedom begins when you finally tell the truth about what has been controlled. What do you reach for when you do not want to feel what you are feeling? Maybe today is not about making another promise. Maybe today is not, I will never do this again. Maybe today begins with curiosity. What happens inside me just before I reach it? What am I trying to escape? What kind of help have I been afraid to ask for? That kind of honesty can become a doorway. If someone came to mind during this conversation, share this episode with compassion, not as an accusation, not need to hear this. Perhaps simply, I had a conversation today about the things people sometimes use to carry pain. I thought it was worth sharing. Let's continue creating conversation that heals mind, strengthen relationship, and restore hope. I am Dr. David Rex Orgen. Take care of your mind. Choose honest over hiding, connection over isolation, support over shame, freedom over secrecy. And remember, addiction often begins with a search for relief. Recovery begins when we become willing to face what we have been trying not to feel. May God bless you. I will see you in our next episode of The Mind Room. Thank you.